We got Odds and End Zones, episode 3, coming up for you right now on BGN Radio. I am Shamus Clancy. I am joined by my phenomenal co-host, Zo. What's up, my man?
What's up, brother? How you feeling? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. We're recording this a little after 10 o'clock on Thursday. Recorded from the bleachers earlier this morning. That might drop tomorrow. I think this pod will drop before that one. So we're bringing you tons of content today and tomorrow. Vibe check, disastrous after the Dallas game on Monday night. I would assume you would agree.
Disaster with a capital D, ironically. I'm surprised with a lot of things. I think the biggest thing I'm surprised about is just how lifeless they look. Going into
no juice whatsoever.
There was zero juice. When it was 7-7, I was like, all right, it's gonna be, this will be a fun game. The defense is jacked up, and then they just look literally like it was a walk in the park. Like no life, no juice. Nobody was pissed off. It was very, very, very just a weird game all around. If you're to be a Birds fan, just weird.
I wonder how much losing BG just absolutely wrecks the spirit of that defense, because he's such a good run stuffer as much as he's renowned as a pass rusher. And it seemed like every 7-yard carry from Tony Pollard and Zeke was going right at the Eagles' left side of that line where usually BG's manning that.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not. Dallas isn't dumb. There are a lot of things, but they're certainly not dumb. They knew exactly where to attack. And I think more than anything, a lot of people tweeted about it, but it hasn't been talked about enough. It is just how BG is also a guy who makes sure other guys are in place, on that line, also in the back end of that defense. And he reminds me a lot of a center in basketball, like a really good defensive center, because he cleans up a lot. He makes a lot of plays. So like if a guy's off an assignment, it's in the wrong gap, it's cool because BG's going to be around the corner to make that tackle anyway. I feel like there's a lot of plays where you saw Tony Pollard just like make one move and then jet. Where like normally if BG was there, he'd be able to at least deter him until somebody else got there to make the tackle. But they knew where to attack, and for credit to them, but for our purposes, the Eagles coaches had no answer for anything that Dallas wanted to do, really.
And you would think that maybe a loss like that could kick them in the pants. But they have the Kansas City Chiefs coming to town, and they're looking for a bounce-back game, maybe even more so than the Eagles.
I was going to say the very pissed off Kansas City Chiefs at that.
So 1-2, 2 huge losses, tough losses. The two teams that you figure are going to make the postseason in the Baltimore Ravens and the Los Angeles Chargers back to back. The early line before the Eagles played last week was -6.5. And even after that Eagles performance, it's only -7 in the Chiefs' favor right now. And you have Big Red coming back to Philadelphia. He was hospitalized for a couple days. And he's going to be gunning for this. That team is going to be wanting to play for him because of those health concerns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, he's looked human a little bit the last couple of weeks. He's going to want to go out balling out. And really, they have the most talented quarterback ever, one of the most explosive players ever in Tyreek Hill, and one of the top 2 or 3 best tight ends ever in Travis Kelce. Eagles are +7. I could see this one getting out of hand even quicker than the Dallas game, man. And I'm usually talking myself into every Eagles win every opportunity, but if they couldn't be in a shootout with Dallas, how are you going to be in a shootout with the Chiefs? I know they're home, but home field advantage in week 2 didn't really mean squat with the way San Francisco fans took over that Cleveland 49ers fan. Maybe they're not from San Francisco. And the Chiefs do have a really large presence in Philadelphia itself, to say nothing that they're the bandwagon team at the moment.
Yeah. There's a bunch of Chiefs bars. There's a nice contingent here. So I think we're going to see a lot of what we saw, at least maybe not in the stadium, but tailgate and energy wise, what we saw for the San Fran game. Um, the other thing that really sticks out to me is this offense is a lot different, right? You touched on it a little bit that Dallas, you couldn't win a shootout with them, and that was an offense that was missing a couple of key players,
Yes.
across their line, and they're missing probably their second best wide receiver with a calf injury, and now you go this week, that offense is pissed off. They didn't perform up to snuff. They had a bunch of drops early in the game last week. That they literally turned the game over, and then you look at what they're up against, how they're feeling. I mean, they get to the 1 yard line in 3 plays, so it can get out of hand quick. And I would not be shocked, ironically, if we're looking at a double digit score at the end of the first quarter. Like they score so fast. It's going to be a track meet, which I usually love, but the way that this Eagles offense has looked, and the way that the quarterback has struggled. It's going to be tough sledding. I don't blame anyone for not picking them to win on Sunday.
No, I mean, them winning this game would maybe be the most remarkable regular season win I've ever seen from the Eagles. And I'm
Yeah,
not trying to do some crazy reverse jinx.
yeah,
I usually pick the Eagles in every game. I just don't see them winning this game in because of who they're playing, the coach, the quarterback, the skill position players, them being down and knowing they're going to bounce back, Reed being in the hospital, and the way the
mhm,
Eagles performed and looked so thoroughly overmatched against Dallas. Again, from a pure upset perspective, just regular season, because we know how we had that playoff run in 2017,
yeah.
it would probably be one of the most remarkable wins I've ever seen from the Eagles team. And maybe this is going on Old Takes Exposed or something like that in a week. I would love for I'd love to have that energy. The Eagles are 2-2. Jalen Hurts had 4 total
Yeah,
touchdowns. Look at these two
right.
idiots on this Eagles podcast.
And like half of us were on Old Taste Exposed because we expected the game to be over by halftime. Yeah, I mean that's the
Yeah,
energy you want.
yeah.
Like, like I feel like it's a big game for a lot of reasons. I hate saying I really do hate saying week 4 is a must win, but if you look at their schedule, right, you
Yeah, that was the
almost
podcast I did for From the Bleachers. It was the title was Eagles schedule only gets harder, man. The next 8 weeks, that could be a
like
2-6 stretch, dude. Three
that's
and
not.
five. If you go 3-5, that's a win.
Yeah, 3-5 is actually welcomed at this point. And the way that they, I think you really you just harp on the way that Jalen Hurts has looked. Um, the he played well in the Falcons game, Niners game. Maybe not so much. And then last week, the questions about the arm strength, about the location, his timing with the receivers. Obviously he's saying all the right stuff. His teammates still believe in him. They said he's looked good, he's looked focused, but which is all fine and well. I don't think it's a focus thing. I think it may even come down to just a talent. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
Like
just
I
it's just
like
skill at a certain point.
right at a certain point. It's not a question of how much you love the game and or anything like that. I don't think that's not where our question is. Our question right now is he like does he have it? I
Yeah.
think the vibes in training camp were absolutely through the roof and off the charts. He had it. He was saying the right stuff. I mean, he's still saying the right stuff, but at a certain point, your skill has to take over. When the going gets tough. So yeah, you're staring down the barrel of the Kansas City Chiefs, and you got Tampa Tom coming in soon, and you got a really good Panthers team coming in,
That's a
and
game
you
you thought
got
was going to be a gimme. You thought the Panthers
right.
game's a gimme. You thought maybe Raiders and Denver are gimme wins.
The
All
Raiders are
three of those
undefeated.
teams are 3-0.
Right. The Raiders are undefeated, and they have a ridiculously good offense, and they have a stingy defense that will literally punch you in the mouth. At the
Gruden's
same
probably
thing,
coach of the year right now.
and then you look at the Broncos. Right, we thought that was a gimme too, and then touchdown Teddy's got them firing on all cylinders. We're literally staring down. I mean, for a last place team, this is probably the toughest schedule I've seen in a very long time. Um, And it goes back to the idea that you don't know what your team is, right? Because when it first came out, we were like, "Yep, these are the gimmies. These are the gimmies. All right, we'll end October. We'll run off. We'll go 6-2 at the end of October because that was realistic. We're like, look, there's gonna be 2 tough games. The rest of those games are gimmies. We're talented enough. BG goes down. Brandon Brooks hurts his pec. Allen hurts his
Ice
knee.
out.
Like the whole entire building starts to fall to its foundation. And next thing you know, we're like, where does this next win come from? That's why I think that also the urgency is such an important thing because it really is week to week in the NFL. Like this league, right, is so week to week because one injury or one play changes the whole course of your season.
Yeah, and looking at some of these props and lines, they need a big explosive play on their first drive. They can't be going 3 and
Yeah,
out, 1 or 2 first downs, 3 and
yeah,
then punting.
yeah.
So Miles, obviously, the talk of the town is Miles only getting 2 rushing attempts, and his over
After
under
we
this
shouted
week.
them out last week,
I
we
know.
shouted them out for
I
being
thought that
so
was
good
going to
at
be a
it.
huge rushing performance and look like what an idiot I am.
Yeah,
His over under rushing yards is 60 and a half. Like, can you even touch that? But at the same time, Miles is a home run hitter.
yeah.
There'd be nothing better than like a 2nd and 4. The Eagles are on the first drive. They're at the 29, and Miles just breaks one. They need something like that.
I I think
The
you.
Chiefs'
I
defense
think I would
hasn't been
touch.
great.
No, their defense is the same as it's always been. Their defense is their offense. So,
Yeah.
um, I think I would touch it mostly because we've heard from
Overcorrection coming to town.
right a huge overcorrection city for this one. I would absolutely touch it. So I think they're going to feed him. We're going to get a steady dose of Miles because they've been hearing all week about how we don't run the ball 3 times, 3 attempts, so on and so forth. Again, overcorrection city, and you know what happens when you overcorrect? You get for the good or for the worse a steady dose of that thing. So I would touch it. I don't know if it's going to be successful in terms of game planning, but I think Miles is definitely going to get as much as he can stand on Sunday.
Yeah, it might not be great from a pure on the
Right.
field wins and losses
Right.
perspective, but the 60 and a half, I think they're going to feed them. I think they had 26 total rushing attempts against San Francisco in week 2. And compared to the 3 non-quarterback runs in week 3, I just have to see Sirianni, who, for the better or for worse, and maybe a little bit for the worse, is so tuned into the atmosphere and vibe of the city that I think he may, as kind of an inexperienced coach and play caller, feel more compelled to pound the rock, especially with the way Jalen looked in week 3.
Do we think that Sirianni over pandered? Are we hitting
Yes.
our first over panderer?
Well, the over pandering stops. It's over pandering when the guy doesn't perform. Bryce Harper over panders, but he's playing like the MVP, so it's not an over pander.
It's not
If that
over
Philly
pander, right?
special redux hits in week 2 and the Eagles are 2-0, Sirianni's God. And to say
Right.
nothing of week 3, and if he wears that beat Dallas shirt and they beat Dallas, whether that's them going 3-0 or 2-1 or 1-2, whatever, then that's a picture that gets posted on Twitter and Instagram every time the
Oh
Eagles play
yeah,
the Cowboys for the next 5 years.
yeah,
So it's all relative there. But if you're not performing, you might have to dial it down a notch because then you're getting super annoying and peeing everyone off.
right. Well, I think he. It's funny because I think he got the message. Obviously, there's no Jalen Hurts shirts this week. No Randall Cunningham jerseys, nothing. Just straight up and straight up Eagles dry fit answering this question. So I think some humble pie was served. He'll chill for a little bit, and I think I'm interested to see how he responds. Coach and player relationship is so important, and coach and quarterback relationship is paramount. So I'm interested to see how the both of them respond. I think that for those two, this is a huge game. This is a like You don't have to go out and beat the Chiefs. I understand how tall a task that is, given what your current
Have a pulse.
lineup is. But right, have a pulse. Like maybe maybe go into the fourth quarter only being down 10 points. And everybody's saying, "Yo, this all right, this is something." Like we might be a player two away, and like we take from that what we take from it, and you go on and you play the rest of these games for what they are, and But I need to see a pulse. I need to see more than what I saw in Dallas. That's for sure.
This is the biggest game of his life, and it
Hmm.
sounds like a
Yep.
my back.
Yeah, you back.
Sorry, a little dead air there. We'll leave it on the YouTube, but Rachel will clean it up
Yeah, Rachel,
on the
of course.
podcast feed. So yeah, they need to show. They need to have a pulse. And like I was saying, Sirianni has never been a head coach at any level, never been a primary play caller at any level. And sounds hyperbolic, but it's the biggest game of his career. If he goes down 1-3, and more likely than not, yes. And with the schedule coming up, if I still think it's reasonable that they could win 8 or so games, given the
Oh
back
yeah,
half of their schedule. Maybe they're out of it
yeah,
by the middle point of the season, but because they're picking up those wins in the back end, it could still be 8, maybe even a 9-win season. But if it gets worse than that, he's in danger of being a one and done coach, correct?
yeah,
Because it's a
yeah,
situation where
yeah.
if Hurts isn't the guy, you're having a new quarterback next year, whether it's, God forbid, Deshaun Watson, whether it's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, or someone else they make a move for in the draft. What's the point of keeping that guy instead of locking up the new QB with the next QB whisperer? So they're a tandem right here. Hurts is still here. Sirianni's still here. Sirianni's still here. Hurts is still probably here.
Yeah.
They need each other because if this doesn't work out, they both might be gone.
Especially, I guess, and especially in the case of Hurts, like who's to say a new coach is not going to want to. He's going to want his own groceries, right? Like Parcells said, like that famous line when he became the coach in Dallas. But yeah, like a new coach is most likely going to want to come in and give his guy a shot. Jalen Hurts is not anybody else's guy. He's Sirianni's guy. So their wagons are hitched to each other, whether they like it or not. And for all intents and purposes, for what we see, they certainly enjoy it. But and vice versa, for if Sirianni happens to be a one trick pony and this is his last year, I think we can safely say it's probably the last year we see a Jalen Hurts starter. Um, and that's just reality. This is a what have you done for me lately league. It's like every other league, to be honest. But this more so than anything because you can't just pluck a quarterback out of the draft and put him in and say, "Yo, you're the guy." It's tough. It's tough to win in the NFL. It's tough to find a starting quarterback. Like you see teams go decades, literally shuffling through the Quincy Carters of the world before they finally
Dallas,
find who's
Cleveland,
the guy. Right?
Cincinnati,
Like I mean, look at what
Oakland,
shout out to Kevin Stefanski, our guy, in Cleveland.
repping Penn
You
right now.
He's doing a hell of a job trying to maximize as much as he can with his dude out there because their wagons are hitched to each other. Like and then this year they're like, yo, like Baker's not it. Either you or Baker. Baker's probably out of there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it matters, man. You need your quarterback to be extremely productive or at least show signs of it because a lot of it hinges on everybody else's job in that building.
From a stats perspective, where Hurts has shined, especially for the first 2 weeks, is picking up yards on the grounds.
Yeah.
I have the
Yeah.
numbers here. Opened up at 39.5 in week 1, over under. Went to 62, so that was a hit.
That
Week
was a hit. Yep.
2, against San Francisco, 49.5 goes to 82. This past week is the first time it doesn't hit. 53.5 was the line. He only had 35 rushing yards.
You know what though? They were keen on him. They used Micah
They were
Parsons a
forcing them
lot.
to throw.
Yeah, and they had a good game plan. I mean, for what it is, their game plan was stout. They stuck to it, and a lot of those guys on that line took it personal. We talked about Micah Parsons before, saying person's on his hit list, all that nonsense. Like it wasn't. I don't even think it was any of that. I just think that they were extremely disciplined in what they wanted to do, which was let's have him beat us with his arm. I think we're going to see a lot of that because once the tape is out, and I'm sure a lot of these defensive coaches are saying, "All right, cool. Like just do what Dallas did, make him beat you with his arm." Like let's rush our primary guys and let's tell number one, all right, show us, make us bring pressure, but like beat us with your arm first.
We've seen Andy specifically. I know he's the offensive mind. Work with a lot of similar quarterbacks throughout his career too. So I think he certainly has a game plan. And Hurts obviously isn't as talented as Michael Vick, Patrick Mahomes, Donovan McNabb, but the point still stands.
Right, sure.
And I wonder if those RPOs, the Sirianni quote that RPOs count as runs is obviously something that might live in infamy in town. But I think we might see a steady dose of maybe not RPOs, but more so read options because of the issue with running. And so I think there's a chance that both Sanders and the Hurts rushing yards could hit. But again, we talked about with Sanders, both of those hitting doesn't necessarily mean that it's a successful day offensively for the Eagles.
Right. Yeah. That just means that there was an overcorrection and they followed suit. But whether it's successful or not depends highly on what the final outcome of that game is.
One thing we've been on, like the Hurts rushing yards, is Quez Watkins on the longest reception. And he hit one last game. Doesn't have like a million catches overall, but it just takes one or two. And his longest reception for this week is over under 14 and a half yards. He might have one catch, but it'll be for 26 yards. He might have two catches for 37 yards. It's only minus 115. If you're not doing a crazy parlay and just want to throw something on one line, I think that's the best one you're going to see for a positive Eagles line, I should say. You don't obviously Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdown passes might be very likely and juicy. But if you want to do something that boosts your confidence as an Eagles fan, I do like that one.
And to add, especially for a guy who doesn't see that many touches, he's someone who, he comes in and he gets a home run ball thrown his way. It's usually two of them. One is typically an incomplete or an overthrow, or he may even
PI.
or like it may be in a PI. And the second one he usually catches. So he's basically 50% on those home run balls. You saw he caught one again Monday night, excuse me, where he beat the Dallas D-back on it. He's a guy who he's not the tallest dude, but he goes up and he gets it. He can locate a football. He's a
little more vertical than you'd think.
Yeah, and he does it. His location is a lot better than it was last year. He's sneakily more vertical than a lot of us think, and he's got burners. I just think that he has that. Ironically, he has yet to be hit in stride, and that's more of a Jalen thing than anything. I think.
Correct.
I just think Jalen has to really let it fly. I know there's been questions ever since he was in college about the arm strength, and there's going to continue to be until he can show that he can just fling it and catch a receiver in stride. Because I think a lot of times what you're seeing is, and you mentioned, you tweeted about this, that guys have to stop and catch up to the ball, and all the momentum is gone.
Yes.
Like, just imagine if he just catches. I know a lot of people were saying, and Trayvon Diggs had Devontae locked up, which is like I would all credit to him. He had a pick six, and he was on Devontae most of the night like white on rice. But there was also times where Devontae got loose and Jalen just couldn't catch him in stride. Like literally just didn't see him. So I just think he's got to work.
And he's not a huge catch radius guy. That ball's got to be there for him.
That's right. You got to just put it right where you want it to be. Like he's got 4.2 speed. You're not going to outthrow him. So I like just sling it. Like if he beats his dude in a slant, you got to throw it 5 yards ahead of him because he's going to get there and he's going to keep going. Like that's the kind of that if you're playing with receivers like that, playing with speed, that's the kind of passing radius you have to have.
Looking at Eagles line specifically for the game overall, I'll never bet against the Eagles, but if you want to, I think the -7 on the Chiefs seems pretty
Yeah,
good. Eagles money line's +250. Would you touch it at all? I don't even think that's juicy enough to lay $10 on there or something like that.
yeah.
That's not
No,
worth anything.
I'm washing my hands of that one. I don't think I've ever bet against the Birds specifically, but especially if you're, this might be one to dabble with, but little too risky for my blood. And too many factors at play. Like it could be a lot uglier than we think. I mean, they can come out.
Are we being too negative based on these lines? Is this too much of an overcorrection on our fans' mentality based off how bad that game is? Because obviously the line makers and odds makers in Vegas know better than both of us.
Yeah,
Not just about lines, but about football overall.
yeah. I think we are being really, really, really practical. No one's excited about Sunday. Like literally
No.
nobody. Like
I'm going to the game. I'm trying to have zero expectations so I can have a couple drinks, follow the game, get some material for the week, and enjoy myself
yeah,
without getting heartbroken.
be done. Yeah, like that's all you can do is go in zero expectation. If they wind up losing by a touchdown, we're back in. They wind up losing by 20 points. You're like, whatever, I expected it. But the least expectation possible will at least set you up to, like you said, go get some good material, get a couple brews, and you and Ash can get some picks. We'll call it a day.
In my newsletter, patreon.com/Shamus Clancy on Sunday, the Sunday edition of the newsletter, I do like an Eagles prediction among some other things. I said 38-20. Maybe it's a little bit of a backdoor 20 points even.
Yeah. I like 38.
Similar.
I was telling a couple people at 35-20 was my sweet spot. So it's not too far off. I think 35-20, and I think the backdoor 20 is like maybe the Chiefs take the foot off the gas, excuse me, and it gets to 20, maybe a defensive touchdown again. Like they get defense gets a safety or something like that, and they kind of you go from 18 to 20 points. I don't think the Kansas City defense is going to be stifling. I just don't know how much I trust this offense to move the ball right now.
Yeah, I mean, just say that Kansas City goes up 14-0 real quick. You're going to have to throw the ball every play.
Right.
And right now, between the way Hurts looked in week 3, and I don't think Hurts is the biggest problem right now. I think there's a roster construction problem that starts from the top. I think Sirianni's looked good, but between the coach, between the personnel, because wide receivers outside of Devontae haven't been great. Quez has looked good. Raker's been kind of a dud, and Devontae hasn't even had great numbers right now either. For most of the reasons, both Hurts and the coaching staff. Again, when I said they couldn't win a shootout against Dallas, how could they do it against Kansas City? And I think, they're going a hole early and they're throwing the ball a lot. I don't know if it really works out. And then Hurts starts pressing. That's when a pick or two comes and goes the other way.
Yeah, and he starts looking his receivers down. He starts to not look guys open, but literally look daggers through them and throw them the ball, and stuff gets ugly real quick. But I agree. I don't think that it's one thing on Devontae or on Jalen. I think Sirianni obviously had the play calling was terrible last week, but with a first time play caller, those are the things you're gonna deal with. You got a first time play caller, head coach. You got a first time, starting quarterback. The growing pains are not the word. Like there's a lot more to come with how we're going to assess them. So I don't know if they are up to win a shootout right now, because I think that there's just too much panic. You could see it. Like you watch the body language. When it was time to get down and dirty, when it was like, all right, look, like we got to respond with 7. You could look on the sidelines. There was like there was no one going up down the sideline saying, "Yo, we're going to let's go get a quick 6
Yeah.
right here." Like there was none of that. They were just like on the bench, heads down. Jalen's like looking up at the screen at the replay, and like there's not enough. There's not enough for like you can't just depend on Kelsey to be the voice for everything. Like
Correct.
you got to be confident. You need a couple of guys who are like, "Yo, they got it back. We're gonna go get it right back. Let's go." 70-yard drive. Like there's not enough people saying that right now. Like I don't think that they have enough confidence in themselves as an offense to really get it done.
Me neither. Hopefully next week, a little less dour, whether it's somehow, some way a win, or at least a game where I'll take a shootout that they lose, because I think they're going to lose either way. If they score 27 points or something, 30 points. Again, I don't like moral victories in NFL, but at least that shows some signs of life from this offense after how poor they looked last week.
Yeah.
Something that could build off of going, as we said earlier, and I said on From the Bleachers, make sure to listen to that too, an increasingly tough part of a schedule, kind of an unprecedented I've seen for the Eagles.
Yeah.
And especially, as you said, for a team coming off a last place finish.
And I also think losing the shootout is moral victory, whatever. It's also like it's like at least make it fun.
Like Dallas game was over right away.
Yeah,
let's have some juice to last me through the game, not make this an excruciating 3.5-hour period.
Yeah, like go into the third quarter and be down 20 to 10 or something, and we're all still invested because that's what you want. You want to be like, all right, cool. Right, these next couple of drives are going to tell us all we need to know, and then at that point, if it's 35-17 head into the fourth quarter, all right, maybe this isn't the one, but at least it's got some juice to it. I keep harking back to just how quickly the Dallas game was over. I felt like the first couple of drives, we were like, oh, all right, I guess
that one play to CD almost. I thought I was like, oh, it's going to be that game.
Yeah,
it's going to be this. It's going to be like that.
All right,
it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
Anything else? You got anything else you want to say? Any go prep?
So Saturday afternoon, your Pennsylvania, Philadelphia high school football game of the week. The LaSalle High School Explorers versus the St. Joe's Prep Hawks at the historic Franklin Field. Yeah, man, game of the year. LaSalle is undefeated. They're 5-0. They have a ton of horses on the defensive side of the ball. Kind of young on offense, but they certainly got a couple of dudes headed to Penn State. They have a couple other guys who are D1. They got a good squad. But that team, those guys, they're mostly seniors. They've never beaten the Prep, and our guys are very much looking forward to keeping that streak going. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be a fun game. But
more fun than the Eagles.
Yeah, I think so. More fun than the Birds. But I got our guys winning that one 28-17.
Love it.
It'll be a nice game. I'll be on the ground. We're taking a couple of freshmen with us, give them their first prep football experience. So it'll be a fun little Saturday.
I love that. All right, wraps it up for us. That's Odds and End Zones number 3. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, all that nonsense on your podcast platform of choice. And we do all of these videos on our YouTube channel. There will be a link in the description for the BGN YouTube channel. So check us out on there, subscribe to our channel, and watch me and Zo do this in person as well. And we should have some fun podcast news coming up in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we can give you some more concrete updates on that soon. Again, that's it. Shamus and Zo, keep bleeding green.
Peace.